I was asked to talk about learned helplessness and how that applies to people with avoidant personality disorder. And that's that's another thing that I think is just a complete and total crap, to be perfectly frank. I think that's another thing that people basically they're dropping the ball and talking out their butt when they say that about somebody with avoidant personality disorder. It's right up there, like with me, like my family of origin, which is absolutely no question about it, they're abusive. Even though obviously it's really hard for me to say that. It's only like literally been like a couple of years that I could actually say that. Anyway, like for instance, I was told, "Oh, everybody thinks you're a snob." Now, the reason why I was told that was a control technique, because, well, it just was. I mean, it would keep me in my place, that I wouldn't want to interact with anybody else because I was afraid I was being judged. And the reason for it was because the person who was telling me that was basically afraid that I was going to go, if I interacted with anybody on a normal basis, then I would leave the person who was abusing me. Another thing I've heard, so annoying. So that's one. That is like a kind of malicious abuse to lie about something like that, basically. The other is when somebody's really lazy, and that annoys me. I've heard that, for instance, telling a child with a disability that they're not smart. And it's completely inaccurate. It's because the teacher is lazy, in a nutshell. Too lazy to actually bother teaching. They know they're one-trick ponies. They know exactly one way to do it. And if somebody else needs to learn a different way, instead of a teacher actually doing their job, they'll say, "Oh, you're just not smart enough." And that thing sticks. That doesn't happen as much as it used to. 20, 30 years ago, yeah, that's what idiot teachers would say. And they're just bad teachers, but they would tell children this, and especially if they have the sticky neural pathways, it would stick. They would remember it forever. They wouldn't, the problem with it is that you can have a contradiction and it won't matter because you were told this. Therefore, it doesn't matter that you've got 900 different examples of proof the opposite. That's what sticks. And so I think this idea of learned helplessness, I bet anything that any person with avoidant personality disorder that was told this, it's one of those two things. Either you're being told by somebody who's trying to control you in order to keep you around because they know that if you become sort of, have a strong sense of self and your self-esteem recovers at all, that you would obviously get a clue and leave. So it's either somebody who's being abusive or somebody who's just so damn lazy they don't want to deal with your individual, difficult, unique issues. Guess what? Everybody is difficult and unique. And yes, there are people, mental health workers or whoever, who specialize and they can only deal with a certain thing. And that's fine. But you don't blame the people who are coming to you for help and put a stupid label like that on. Instead of going, okay, well, you know what? You're out of my realm. This is my specialty. You're not my specialty. Move on. In other words, bad therapist or whoever. My gut response is That's what happened. It's one of those two things. You heard this from somebody who was saying it as a disservice to you. Because in my case, for instance, which, I understand I am different in a lot of ways than the average avoidant person. I mean, obviously, videos. In that, but then again, absolutely fits the bill, which is that I was told repeatedly by people who are not my family that I am too independent. Now, granted, okay, I'm a girl, and I actually do think that that has something to do with it, because, there's stereotype, whatever, that women are supposed to be dependent on another person in some way or shape or form. Whatever. I don't fit the stereotype of the little woman in a nutshell, because I will do everything I need to do on my own. And it's really hard for me to depend on other people, but, okay, that's twofold. One, I don't trust people. So I have an expectation that they're not going to live up to what they're saying, and that there's failure imminent. And could be self-fulfilling prophecy that people live up to their expectations, but whatever. It could be that I just have picked the wrong people, or that I'm stuck with the wrong people. Whatever. And also, and this is huge, is that I don't think I'm worthy of help from other people. No, I would never, ever depend on somebody else for anything. No way. No. No. Never. Now, is that learned helplessness? It could be, depending on how people are describing it. Learned because apparently it is abnormal, my way of looking in the world. Because, when you're a baby, obviously you think you're worthy of somebody taking care of you, and you can accept it. And I mean, at some point that changed. So there's learned something. And helplessness and hopelessness, I think, are definitely not the same. And I'm trying to see how it's possible to say that that's accurate in any way, shape, or form. And I just don't. Now, I do get... I understand the drive where you're like, okay, avoidant personality disorder is extremely self-limiting. Yes. Except it's not at the same time. And the thing is that I think that a person with avoidant personality disorder has been trained to look at and pay attention in acute detail to the things that they are not able to do. Well, not everybody is able to do everything, right? Seriously, everybody has quirks and etc. And there's the introverted part of it too, which is different, and which I got from people that are like, hey, it's impossible for somebody to be an extroverted person with avoidant personality disorder. Except the thing is, it doesn't discriminate. So I do believe there are extroverted people with avoidant personality disorder, and I think they, wow. I mean, it sucks bad enough to be introverted and wish I could have people, but to be extroverted and to not be able to connect with people, not because there's an incapability, but because you feel you're not worthy and you won't allow that to happen. Oh my God, that, there's always something that's worse, and that would be worse. But as far as thinking, I can't do these things, okay, well, is that accurate? That you really 100% are not capable of doing these things? I mean, if you're talking about being helpless because you can't interact with grocery clerks, okay, well, now is a good time for that. That you don't have to depend on somebody else. You can order your food into your house, and almost everywhere. Oh, okay, maybe not almost everywhere. I was looking at geography, and there are people from all over everywhere watching. So that's me feeling really privileged. Not every, I mean, like, for instance, I purposefully live out in the sticks, and I have no, like, takeout food delivery at my house, which every once in a while would be really great to just, like, order a pizza, but then on the other hand, it could be really, really convenient to just order pizza all the time, and, but I don't like people at my house anyway, like, at all, so therefore, totally works, and I get to be in a country, also totally works. So that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about ordering takeout. I'm talking about, like, there are delivery companies that will deliver food to your house. So there are ways around it, and that's not helpless, that's limiting, and there's a huge difference. I mean, yeah, for my personal thing, I mean, I don't know how I come off online, but, like, for me personally, my doctor has informed me that I cannot work in an office setting ever again. That's not a learned helplessness. I mean, in some ways, I mean, I'd be able to get different work if I could do that. Then again, like, thank you for not allowing me to have that privilege of working in a cubicle again. But again, that's not helpless. That's limited. And so it's really irksome to me, and it's not the person who brought it up. It's the concept, and when it's applied to somebody who has avoidant personality disorder, and it's just like this broad stroke. That's what's going on. No, that is not what's going on. That is, like, give me a break. That's somebody who is lazy or judgmental, who is trying to bring you down because they don't want to actually bother with finding out the truth. The truth is limited. Yes, limited, and yes, you have to work a little bit harder than other people to do things, but you can. And if you are coping and you are finding ways to get through your life that are taking advantage of opportunities, that is the opposite of helplessness. It might feel like you're in a box and that you can't do X, Y, and Z, but in fact what you're doing is making your life capable of living by using whatever you're using and avoiding whatever you're avoiding. And the thing is, I've said this before, I'm pretty sure, is that you have to figure out what you want to focus on. Drop everything else out. Forget about that. Don't be guilty about it. Focus on what you want to focus on. Make those goals and reach those goals and work on them. And then once you've reached that one, they call it the snowball effect. That Vlogmas. Then you can add the next thing and add the next thing until you get everything that you want.